Hello and welcome to Tricks of the S-Trade channel. Today is the 20th of May 2017, and today's video we have somebody from Big Bang Theory. Let me actually, because his name, he's an Indian dude, so sometimes I can get the name wrong. So I'm just trying to get the name right so I pronounce it like in the proper way. And just hold on a second and let me get the name right. So the guy on okay, we'll just refer to him as a guy for now, but by the time we get done with the video, you'll actually see that is actually a woman, a chick. So the guy's name is Kunal Nayyar, all right? I hope I haven't butchered up the name. He's actually he's one of those funny dudes on Big Bang, but you will find out that you've been deceived for a long while, and this dude is actually female. So if it's your first time on our channel, I'd like to welcome you to the channel. And I would suggest right here and now that if you haven't watched the primer video on this channel, that you should pause this video right here. Go look for the primer video on our channel. And I'm going to show you the primer video from our channel list. I'm going to scroll down to list of videos that we have. Let's go to page 2. It's one of the first few videos that we made. It's the primer video, okay? And here is the video right here called primer, if you're looking at my mouse. So if it's your first time on our channel and you haven't watched this video, I want you to pause this video right here and go look for this video, the primer video. All right, watch the primer video, and when you're done with the primer video, you can come back and continue watching this particular video. Because the reason why I say that is if you do not watch the primer video, you're going to be asking me a lot of questions which I may have already answered. And since this is an interactive, kind of, video channel in which I try my best, right, to answer as many questions as possible, I also want you guys to be educated as well, all right, to know this stuff for yourself. So that's why you have to watch the primer video. When you've done watching the primer video, you can come back, all right, to this video and keep on watching it. And also, I would also recommend that you download an attachment. I'm going to just show you what the attachment looks like. So for example, you're watching the primer video, which I'm clicking on right now. I'm going to pause this video right there. And then you can go down to the screen. You see where the pane here says show more. You click on that and you find a link. I'm actually pointing at that link right there. You open up that link, all right? You don't have to study the link right here and then before you continue watching the video, but you can do that at your own time. But I do advise you that you should do so. So when you click on that, it will take you to a link, and the document is going to be something like this, and this is the actual document itself. It's about 44 pages long, as you can see, but it will show you it will help to show you the visual differences between male and females. All right, it's going to take you just 30 minutes, even though it's 44 pages long. It just has a lot of pictures, as you can see as I'm scrolling down, just a whole lot of pictures to show you the visual differences between male and female, so you can actually be able to know that. And so you won't be deceived by a lot of YouTube channels out here, because there are so many of them which are actually propaganda agents. And as I've always said in all my videos, even if you've never heard me say it before, you probably will hear it now, in which I tell you that it's the Vatican who's in control of everything that you watch, anything that has to do with media, in whatsoever form, written, video, internet, or whatsoever, because it's part of that 25-point plan that the Vatican had to make sure that they could rule the world again, was to make sure they control all media. All right, so you have a lot of people on YouTube who are actually, making videos to confuse you, which is a Vatican sponsored agent, because you have to understand that the Vatican owns all forms of intelligence, all right, whether it be the secret services in your country, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. They're all the police. It's all intelligence organizations that the Vatican owns. They're not there for you. All those intelligence agencies and the police are not for you. They are there to spy on you for the Vatican, to make sure that they can, take you at will. Those who try to oppose the Vatican in what they call the New World Order. I don't want to go into too much details on this particular video on that, but if you're really interested in like real world history, I'll just refer you back to a video page on our channel. There's a couple of videos I would recommend. One of the first ones would be the Beyonce Part 2 right here. If you're looking at my mouse right there, you can watch that. It will give you a lot of real world history, all right? History that's been hid from you. And you can also watch, let me see, another recommendation would be the Serena Williams video. Let me see if I can find that right here. And that's it, the Serena Williams video. And that will give you an outlook or a look into the 25-point plan that the Vatican made or instigated through Adam Weishaupt under the auspices of the Illuminati, right? When you hear of the Illuminati, is the same thing as the Vatican. They own it, all right? So the 25-point plan, one part of the 25-point plan was to make sure that they could rule the world again when the Reformation we'd have, when the Protestant Reformation broke up the Roman Catholic Kingdom, all right, during the 1400s, all right? So you can watch the Serena Williams video right there, and it will teach you some stuff about the 25-point plan. And one of those rules, or one of the 25-point plan, was to make sure that the Vatican would own all media in whatever form or format. That includes the educational system, which is also part of the media, to make sure that they could get back the Roman Catholic Kingdom under auspices of what they now call the New World Order. All right, that's what it's about. The New World Order, in very simple terms, just means that the Vatican just wants to run the world again, and you as a slave in it. So I don't want to get into too much details because today's subject is about. I'm always trying to get this guy's name wrong. It's Kunal Nayyar of the Big Bang Theory. He's in the show called The Big Bang Theory, and now we'll spend some detail amount of time just to talk about the Big Bang Theory for a little bit before we get into Kunal Nayyar. Now, what I wanted to say was that the reason I've lost track of what I wanted to say, but let me just rephrase. Let me see if I can just go back to what I was trying to say. So what I was trying to say that is that the New World Order just means that the Pope just wants to run you, and and run everybody else as a slave and run the whole world. That's just technically very simple terms. Now, if it's your first time on our channel, all right, and you've never watched any of our videos, even though we feature a lot of transgenders on our videos on our channel, all right, I don't want you guys to get so enamored by transgenders, because the point of the channel, the point of the videos, is to make you understand your world, to demystify your world, so you could understand the reason for all the chaos and the people behind it. And also to make you understand that there is an organized system that's put in place by the Vatican, which is given its blessing, which is given to taking young children, transgendering these children, right, and forcing them to live in a sex and gender that's not the sex and gender that they were born with, because there are tools, there are products that will serve the Vatican in its New World Order without any questions, to make them loyal servants and loyal tools of propaganda. All right. So, and that's just what I want to bring to your attention, and that's the reason for these videos. So I don't want you to get too so enamored about transgenders and trying to find out who's a transgender and who's not. You should be more concerned about what the Vatican is cooking up every day. Like when you watch the media and you watch all the news about, for example, Donald Trump is all over the place. These are all distractions, all right? You can't believe anything and everything you see on TV, because in all cases, TV doesn't tell you the truth. It's just meant to distract you, feed you propaganda, so they can keep on doing what they're supposed to do to make this New World Order thing keep working like clockwork. All right. So now, on the subject of transgenders, some people come onto my make comments. All right. They try to give you frivolous ideas of how to actually distinguish between a male and a female. You hear people talk about square jaws. You hear about them talk about, like, a ring fingers being longer than the index finger indicates that that's a male. If you're female and you have your index finger is gonna be longer than your ring finger. And you hear them talking about hip width and shoulder width and a ratio and all that. There's a lot of channels out there. When you watch them, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. You have to understand this first of all right? The Vatican, who's the seat, who's the ownership of the organized transgendering of kids, they don't want you to know the difference between male and female, but you see it every day, all right? So they put up a lot of these channels to try to confuse you so you wouldn't know. So we have to go back to like really simple basic thinking, all right, when we're trying to distinguish between male and female. And I just want to pose simple questions to those who come on the channel who I know they're working for the Vatican. They're Jesuit trained, but they're very bad Jesuit trained agents because they make such weak statements. They're trying to sound ridiculous, all right, so that you could say that they don't know actually what they're saying, but they make weak statements. So I want to pose a question to all those who bring up the subjects of ring, index fingers, and they bring up skull, ratios and jaw lines and all that kind of stuff. So now the question remains. I want to ask very simple questions here. This simple logical thinking. All right. When we look at a male and a female, when we're trying to compare males and females, you should understand one of too many things. All right. First of all is that a male has two eyes. A female has two eyes. So we can't make comparison on the eyes. And even though we try to make comparison on the eyes and the way they're set in the skull, you have to understand that different people have different skull structures. And also the face is one of the major places that you can have cosmetic change or plastic change. It can be changed through cosmetic, the putting of makeup, highlighting, and all that stuff can change that facial feature so that you can really look at it and say this is male or female, depending on how great the makeup is. All right. So let me just get back down into what I'm trying to say. So for example, you look at a male has two eyes. A female has two eyes as well. All right. So there's nothing left there to compare. Eyes and eyes are the same. A woman has a nose with two nostrils. A man will have a nose with two nostrils as well. There's nothing there that we can absolutely compare and say, okay, this has to be a male nostril and this is going to be a female nostril. A female has a mouth. A man has a mouth. Even though we can understand that some female lips have poutier lips in the way the lips are, and men have regular lips. So that means, for example, a pouty lip would mean sometimes they say duck lips. Maybe that's the right way to put it. I don't know how best to explain it much more better than that. But let's just say for the purposes of this video, let's say duck lips or pouty lips are for females, all right? But they're still lips. You really can't make any comparison. Now, men have breasts and female have breasts as well. The only difference is that the male breast stocks up more fat and the mammary glands are more developed, so the breast can produce milk. But besides that, there are just breasts. The same breast that you have in a male is the same you have in a female. All right? A man has two hands. A female has two hands. All right? A male has two legs. A female has two legs. And we both have 5 fingers on each hands and 5 fingers on each toes, and that's just the way it is. Besides maybe the abnormalities that could arise out of genetic abnormalities. All right. So if you look at a man and a woman, you can understand that they both look alike in the terms of face, eyes, hands, feet, and body. So the only distinguishing factor between a male and a female is that a female pelvis, right, is designed to give birth. The male pelvis is not designed to give birth. So why is it that we are focusing so much? I'm talking to the agents and the delusional people right now, all right? Why is it that you guys are so much focused on the one thing that cannot really differentiate between male and female, which is the index fingers, the jaw lines, and the skull, or whatever else you can look at, when the main difference between a man and a woman is that one's body, one's hips, or one's pelvis is designed to give birth, and the other is not designed to give birth. That is where the major differences are. That is where the skeletal structure of males and females are differentiated by. Because one structure, one skeletal structure, is designed to give birth and the other is not. So that's why, for example, a female pelvis is tilted forward. It's like a bucket. The pelvis is like a bucket. It's tilted forward so that a baby can lay in the womb. All right? A man's pelvis is straight. A female pelvis has a wide pubic arch, which is 120 degrees wider or more. A male pelvis, right, is 90 degrees or less. The pubic arch. The pubic arch is the space in between the legs, right? That angle right there. And also, the female hip is designed in such a way that it should not obstruct the giving of birth. The female hip is lower in the body proportion. The female hip is below the female's crotch. A man's hip, because it's not designed for giving birth, all right, is above his crotch. In a female, it's below the crotch. So I'm asking this question, I'm posing this question to the people who post comments and try to confuse people because they want you to be deluded. And then they throw up this general rule is that everybody in Hollywood is a transgender. Or they say everybody, all right, is a transgender in Hollywood. So the question would now arise, if everybody is a transgender in Hollywood, how are they supposed to bear children? Because they're saying all of these things to try to confuse you. Because you can't tell the differences between male and female by looking at fingers, right? All right? Fingers and jawline. It's subjective. The major telling point between a man and a woman is in his pelvis or in her pelvis. That is where the differences are, because one pelvis is designed to give birth and one is not designed to give birth. So that's why I spend my time to show that, because that's the only way you can know between a male and a female. It is scientifically been proven. That's the major places, because the one skeletal structure is designed to give birth, the other one is not. It's as simple as that. So I don't want anybody coming up here and talking about, index fingers and jaw lines and all that. I'm not going to even answer those comments anymore. All right? So that's just that. So let's get back to Kunal Nayyar, all right? Because we're on the subject of Kunal Nayyar, and talking about Kunal Nayyar, we're going to talk about the Big Bang Theory, because it's one of the most popular, shows on TV. Now, if you want to know about the Big Bang Theory and what it is, because we already have a video that I talked about it, and I'll just point you to that video right away. You can come here and watch the let me see the video. I'm scrolling down the screen to see the Prince Charles video. If you watch the Prince Charles video, I talk about a lot of stuff on that that has to do with the geocentric, the heliocentric model, and the Big Bang Theory. But I'll just give like a quick overview, because we're talking about Kunal Nayyar, who's on the show called Big Bang. And like I always tell everybody, the Vatican is never too far behind in all things that are anti-God, the God of the Bible as defined in the Geneva Bible. It's one of the Bibles I do recommend that you guys should read the most, because the Geneva Bible predates the 1611 King James Version of the Bible. You can also read the 1611 King James Version. It's very important that you read those two Bibles. The Geneva Bible contains notes, especially about the Reformation that happened, and a lot of stuff that could identify you, identify who's your enemy. That's one of the things that the Geneva Bible, really helps with. It has notes. So look for the Geneva Bible, and don't just look for the Geneva Bible in the App Store. Go get the physical copy itself, because if you don't get the physical copy, you won't have all those notes. If you just go for it in the App Store, be it if you all have an iPhone or you have an Android phone, you won't see all those notes in the Geneva Bible in there. So you have to go and actually order, for one, a physical copy of it, all right, in the book format, to get all those notes. It will really help you. You can also get the 1611 King James Bible. So let's get back to the subject of Kunal Nayyar and the Big Bang Theory. And talking about Big Bang Theory, the person who's associated with the theory of the Big Bang is Georges Lemaitre. And you can pause this video at any time right here and just copy out Georges Lemaitre and go to his wiki page, and you can read up on this. And he's actually a priest. So that's why I always tell you that the Vatican is at the helms of everything that's anti-God. They put up a facade and telling you that they worship God, but they're really confusing you, because the higher you go up in your Catholic doctrine, you find that it's all Luciferian. Worship of idols, the praying to the Virgin Mary, that's not biblical at all. And that's one of the things that caused the Protestant Reformation under Martin Luther, in which he had to say that the Pope had nothing to do with God, which is still the truth till today. The Catholic Church hasn't changed. The Vatican hasn't changed at all. When I talk about the Catholic Church here, I'm talking about its hierarchy, controlled by the Vatican. I'm not talking about lay Catholics, because they really don't understand anything. They're brainwashed totally. They don't even know the difference between left and right. So when I'm talking about the Catholic Church, I'm talking about the Vatican, the Roman Catholic hierarchy, which controls the Vatican. So it's just a facade. It's meant to confuse simple-minded folk who are looking for God, but it's meant to, it's more like when they say, if you can't beat them, join them, right? So the Roman Catholic Church, who had been at the forefront of persecution of a lot of people who believed in God for a very long time, the God of the Bible, under his name of Yahweh and Yehoshua, all right, they couldn't beat them, so they had to join them. But in beating them, they brought in their own things and confused a lot of people. So that's the only way they could stem the tide for that period of time. So that's one of the things that led to the Protestant Reformation started by Martin Luther, and that came and from that Reformation you had the Geneva Bible, which is one of the first Bibles before the 1611 King James Bible. So going back to Georges Lemaitre and his wiki page right now, you can pause the video, like I said, and go look this up. You will find out that he's a priest. And you can see all that his Catholic University of Louvain, and even here I can read some stuff from you. It says Georges Henry Joseph Edouard Lemaitre was a Belgian Catholic priest, astronomer, and professor of physics at the Catholic University of Louvain. He proposed the theory of the expansion of the universe, widely misattributed to Edwin Hubble. He was the first to derive what is now known as Hubble's law, and made the first estimation of what now is called the Hubble constant, all right, which published in 1927. Now, Lemaitre also proposed what became known as the Big Bang Theory. I'm not going to talk much about it on this particular video. Like I said, if you're really interested in that, I recommend you to the Prince Charles video, which I showed you earlier. I'll talk about this more in detail. I won't talk about a lot of it more in this particular video. I don't want to talk about it. So, like I'm saying, the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Vatican, has nothing to do with God. Right? Because it doesn't make sense if you say you're of God, and the Bible says that God created the whole world, and you propose the theory of the Big Bang, you propose evolution, you stand for everything. What do you actually stand for? It doesn't make any sense, because the theory of the Big Bang contradicts the creation theory that the Bible states in the Geneva Bible and the 1611 King James Bible. Right? And also, just to show you, this is a page you can actually pause the video and copy out the link right there and go read it, in which the Pope says evolution, Big Bang are real. So what does he actually stand for? So I'm always trying to show you facts so you understand the people who are running your world. That the Pope is running the world, but they don't want you to know that they are doing that because they haven't fully acclaimed back the Catholic kingdom that was torn up. I mean, the New World Order is not in perfect union right now. All right, so they don't want you to know that. So they want you to look them up as just a religious organization. Like, for example, I think today or tomorrow, today happens to be the 20th of May 2017. Donald Trump is pairing is taking a visit to the Vatican. He's starting with Saudi Arabia, then he's going to go to Israel, and then he ends up at the Vatican. He's going to see his master. So when you read down into this page, you see what the Pope says, that it says, I'm just going to read something from this particular page. Like I said, you can pause the video and copy out the link and go read it yourself. It says, when we read about creation in Genesis, we run the risk of imagining God was a magician with a magic wand able to do everything. But that is not so, Francis said. He created human beings and let them develop according to the internal laws that he gave to each one so they would reach the fulfillment. See, this is how people get fooled, because when you hear about God, you really have to ask this question. Because there are a lot, when people talk about God, they talk about so many gods. I mean, Allah is a god according to the Muslim world. Buddha is God. You have so many other gods around. So when people get fooled, especially people who say they believe in God by the King James Bible or the God of the Bible or the Geneva Bible, they get confused. When they hear about God, they say, oh, he must be talking about our God. It's not true. You really have to ask the question, which God is it you're talking about? Don't get fooled, because they use God in a very general term, but the God they're talking about is not the God of the Bible. The Vatican has nothing to do with the Bible. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's a control structure. It's a power structure. It's the oldest religious organization in the world. And I have so many videos in which I explain that the Catholic, the Vatican, right? The Vatican created the Muslim religion. I explained that in the video that I'm asking you to watch, the Beyonce Part 2 video. I explained that a lot. I can show you with facts as well. All right. So I'm going back to this page. It says, Francis said, the beginning of the world was not a work of chaos, but God created from a principle of love. He said, that's why because when people hear love and God, they get confused. They let their guard down, their emotions come into play, their feelings come into play. So that's why you're never supposed to judge things from the way you feel. You have to take your emotions out of it. Put your reasoning and brain to work to know if what's being said is actually logically correct. Don't ever make decisions based on how you feel. Never judge anything from how you feel, from your emotions. Your feelings and emotions are there so you can know that you're human. Your feelings and emotions are given so you can interact with your physical world. That's what the feelings and emotions are. All right? So you can touch, taste, right? And see. Those are what your emotions are for. For you to interact with your physical world. Don't make any judgments of it. Don't get sucked into somebody talking about love and God and togetherness and you drop your guard. Be alert. Put your mind to work. Put your brain and reasoning to work. Ask him which God is he talking about. Because the God he's talking about may not be on the same page. And even if he's talking about the same God, he may not be talking about him in the right way as well. So know all that. So Francis said the beginning of the world, Pope Francis says, yes, the beginning of the world is not a work of chaos, but created from principle of love. He said sometimes competing beliefs in creation and evolution could coexist. I want to highlight that. He said sometimes competing beliefs in creation and evolution could exist. So you have to ask the question, what is the Pope standing for? Because certain things can coexist. Evolution, Big Bang, and the creation in the Bible cannot coexist. They're all different theories. So if a man who's supposed to be worshiping or pointing you to God Almighty, Yehoshua, all right, which people misinterpret and call Jesus, is supposed to be pointing you to him, is saying all this, that means he's got nothing to do with God. I'm just gonna play this short clip before we go into Kunal Nayyar, just for you to hear it, so it doesn't look like I'm just talking. So I'll play the clip right here. I'll pause for a short while, and then when the clip is done, I'll come back and we continue with Kunal Nayyar. All right?
I started as a
L'inizio del mondo non è opera del caos che deve a un altro la sua origine, ma deriva direttamente da un principio supremo che crea per amore. Il Big Bang, che oggi si pone all'origine del mondo, non contraddice l'intervento creatore divino, ma lo esige. L'evoluzione nella natura non contrasta con la nozione di creazione, perché l'evoluzione presuppone la creazione degli esseri che si evolvono.
So you can see how the Pope there confuses people by saying that the Big Bang, that creation requires a Big Bang, and people get sucked into it. Simple-minded folk who have refused to put their brain to work, to reason and think things out, and to study the Bible from themselves. For the Reformation brought about the fact that you could study the Bible on your own without having to go to an organization like a church and sit down and require for it to be read and for you to understand it. It was translated into your own language. That was what the Reformation brought. All right? This is how the Pope confuses people. This is how they keep confusing all people around the world. And even today, when we talk about simple things as knowing the difference between a man and a woman, you hear people talk about ridiculous stuff like index fingers and jawlines, when the difference between a man and a woman is that one is designed to give birth, and the design is in the skeletal structure in the hips, and one is not designed to give birth, and the design is in the skeletal structure in the hips. See how stupid we've become? How brainwashed we've become to such simple things? So I don't want to spend too much time on this anymore. I just want to jump straight into the fact that we're talking about Kunal Nayyar, and I just want to jump into Kunal Nayyar real quick. And before I do that, like I usually say on all our videos, right? We are not against transgenders. I have to say this loud and clear, all right? We are not against transgenders. If an adult decides that he wants to live the fantasy of hoax of being in a sex different than the sex that he was born with, right? We have nothing against him. He's an adult. God has given us free reign over our lives to live it any type of way that we want. We're not against that. What we're against is exposing the system that's put in place by the Vatican to taking young kids, forcing these kids to live in a sex and gender that's not of their own making, technically making these people slaves. We have so many examples on our channel that you can go through and look. All right? That's what we're against here. We're not against transgenders. We can't judge anyone that's a transgender. Because like I've always said, for you to judge someone, you have to have authority to be able to judge transgenders. We have no such authority. We have no power. So we can't judge transgenders. And judgment requires that you make sure that what you're going to judge somebody of, that you are not committing the same thing. If you're a thief, you shouldn't be judging someone else who's stealing, because you're both in the same boat. So if I talk about transgenders and expose them on our channel, I have to show you, because I'm not a transgender. I'm a man. I remain a man, born one. So I can talk about somebody else. All right? So we don't have any power or any authority over transgenders. Because when you go to a court of law, right, the judge has been given authority to judge you. So that's why he can judge you. So we don't judge anybody here. We're just exposing the people, the root of this meticulous evil that's being done to young kids who have not reached the age of which they can make a decision to say they want to live in a sex and gender that's different from the sex and gender they were born with. That's all it is on here. So with that said, let's get into Kunal Nayyar. So I'm going to pull up a picture of Kunal Nayyar here, and here it is. Okay, here's Kunal Nayyar of the Big Bang Theory, and you look at him and you think, oh, I'm looking at a man. You know, he's got this fake sideburns. He's got a little bit of an Adam's apple because he's probably been going through testosterone treatment and everything else, and trying to look like a man, but it's a female. So we'll go over some more pictures. And here is Kunal Nayyar, and you can see from the way this dude stands that he has an arch in his back. And that's one of the things I always like pointing out. Why does a female have an arch in her back? Because the skeletal structure is designed to give birth. An arch is an extra support for the pelvis of a female, which is tilted forward. And let's go into a document because I want people to get this. All right. Here is a document, and as you can see, here is a man. Here's a female on my left and a man to my right. Now, as you can see this female right here, the female has an arch in her back. You can see if you're following my mouse, the arch is right in there. All right. The arch of a female the arch just starts below the shoulder blades and starts dipping in towards the navel from the back. When it gets to the navel, it starts turning out into the pelvis because the pelvis here is tilted forward, designed so that a baby can stay inside the pelvis without falling out. As you can see, men have straight pelvis, as you can see, it's straight here, and here it's tilted. All right. A man's back does not arch. If a man's back wants to arch, it arches outside like a D or a P, as you can see here. A female's arch arches inside. Depending on where you draw the arch, it's going to arch into an S-shaped spine, or it's going to arch like a C. A man's arch arches outside. A female's arch arches inside. A man's back is shaped straight, D or like a P. All right. So I'm going further into the document just to keep showing you the differences. Pardon my stuff is a little bit slow, and as you can see, it's loading up there. As you can see, a female's back always arches more than a male. If she bends down, the back is going to arch more. You're going to see more arch in that back of a female, depending on how she bends her back. If she bends forward, bends sideways, the arch is going to appear more because that's the way females are designed. Skeletal structure is designed to give birth. All right. I go further into the document again. Pardon me if it's a little bit slow loading up. Let's go further down into the document. Further down, because I really have to show you all this all the time, so you get you understand exactly what I'm talking about. So a female's back's always gonna arch, right? Doesn't matter if she's got muscles like this female right here, because she's all muscular. The arch is still gonna be in that back because the skeletal structure is designed to carry children and give birth. That's the major difference between males and females, not in square jawline and index fingers, which are all subjective. All right. And here's another female, muscular female. You can see there's an arch in that back. All right. And going back to Kunal Nayyar of the Big Bang Theory, and that's what you see from that stance. There is an arch in that back. All right. Arch in that back. Another picture. And here's Kunal Nayyar, and you can see he has hips, right? Can you see that? Because he's designed to give birth, all right? It's actually she. Can you see that? Hips, right? Can you see how wide the hip starts and where it starts? Can you see that? All right? Can you see that? Those are the hips of a female, not of a man. Kunal Nayyar was genetically born female, transgendered into male. He's technically a slave owned by whosoever owns him. All right? Like I've said, the Vatican has put the machinery in place. They have the surrogacy, they have the hospitals, they have the media, because they technically own everything that support this kind of it's a religion to most people to transgender their kids. That's why you need to watch the primer video. It's very, very important that you do watch the primer video on the channel, so because I explain that more. All right, let's go further. Here's Kunal Nayyar, and can you see that? Those are hips of a female. See how wide those are? All right. Okay, some more pictures. See that? Arch in the back, wide hips. All right. Arch in his back. See that? There's an arch right there. Wide hips. See that? Arch in the back. Can you see that? Arch in the back. Skeletal structure of a female designed to give birth. Can you see that still? Those are still hips right there. Look at that. All right. Look at that now. It's very, very glaring. Look at that. Wide hips, and look at the Q angle. The Q angle is the angle between the hip and the knee. It's more acute for females because the hips are wider. And why are the hips wider? Let me show you. I'll show you from a document. So let's go back into a document. All right. Let's scroll up a little bit into the document. This is the document advice that you should have at all times. All right. Let me go up a little bit more. And bear with me if this is taking a little bit too long. Now, the female has a wide pubic arch. This is the pubic arch here, the space between the thighs. It's 120 degrees or more wide on a female, so that a baby can come out of the womb. With men, this pubic arch is much more shorter. It's 90 degrees or less. It's because the pelvis is not designed to give birth. So I don't want you people guys spending time on index fingers and being confused as the Vatican and the people who support them run videos trying to confuse you. When you watch any channel that starts talking about index fingers and jawlines, you better get out of that channel fast. You could just listen just so you could know that this guy is a crook, right? Trying to confuse you. Wide pubic arch is a requirement. The major differences between male and females is in the pubic. Is the skeletal structure. One is designed to give birth and one is not designed, and all that has to do with the pelvis and the spine. So female has a wide pubic arch, so a baby can come out of the womb, as you can look, as you're seeing from this picture. Let me show you that this is the difference here. See that? This is a female. See this, that pubic arch there that you see below? It's wide here, 120 degrees, so a baby can drop out of here. With male, it's 90 degrees or less because it's not designed to give birth. That's just that. So that's the reason why kunal Nayyar over here has a wide pelvis, because this pelvis is designed to give birth, like all females' pelvis are. I'll show you another picture from one of our documents here. Here's a female, and look at that wide pubic arch right here. This is where that pubic arch is, 120 degrees or more, making the pelvis to be pulled apart and giving that female the hourglass figure, as you can see right here, right? Another one right here, wide pubic arch, giving the female the hourglass figure that she has right here. And that is what kunal Nayyar, right, has over here if we're comparing, right? See that? See that hourglass figure because of the wide pubic arch. Same way as the female over here. All right, so that's all what I wanted to give to you guys today. And I hope you learned something. So subscribe, stay tuned, and I'll leave you with these words. Look with your eyes and see with your brain. Don't be confused anymore. Thanks and bye-bye.